Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here. Go for two here. If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win. Gonna go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
Go for two here.
But he didn't get a first round paycheck. He was a 5th round pick that was making $700,000 a year, and I mean,
Still more than Odell.
naturally. Well, look, I think anybody that takes their contract in Bitcoin is signed up for whatever they're getting, but I'm sure that Odell will make a little bit more money when that Bitcoin shoots back up. But for right now, he's got a. I mean, I think they compared his salary to a starting gym teacher. And hey, if you could play in the NFL for whatever it is, 50, 60 grand, Chad, I bet you would take it.
Well, I only got one play in me. I won't even say it's going to be a good one. I'm just going to say I got one play in me.
You'd be the best person to put in there because you couldn't get a concussion.
Well, you can't, exactly. I'm immune to them at this point. That's just
Yeah.
that's just how I talk.
Yeah, Chad's got his he's got a vaccination for concussions. he's been immunized. All right, that was a stupid thing to say, but I can't help myself. Look, Matthews is a free agent. Clark is a free agent. Based on what I saw on the sideline, I think that they're going to have to make the decision between Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, which is probably going to be a pretty easy decision to make. But Mecole Hardman's finally realized that he can play in this league, and I don't think that his contract is up, but I think that he's a guy that either gets traded or just outright ask for a release.
Really? That last part hit home.
I think if I'm a receiver though, and my quarterback's Patrick Mahomes, and I have weapons all around me, a hometown discount might not be the worst thing. Lots of receivers have left thinking they can be the guy.
Mhm.
I don't see Hardman ever being the guy. Like, he's at best only ever going to be a complimentary piece. Why don't you be a complimentary piece to the best quarterback in football? Outside of Joe Burrow, just for Caleb.
He thinks that he can play the role that Tyreek Hill's playing, and he thinks he's as good. And, if you're in a championship game and you're still whining about getting the ball, that, in my opinion, isn't a competitive nature. That is you being a little bitch. And the way that he was acting and the fact that him and Tyreek Hill got into it on the sideline, I'm not saying that there's no chance he plays there, but I think there's a high likelihood that Mecole Hardman is probably traded for a third or a fourth round pick because, like we just talked,
He's UFA.
he is a free agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
He's
then
gone
there's
for sure.
yeah, there's no way he's coming back. And he was trying to get that last game and get that showcase, and he wanted to be the guy. And look, he had an okay playoff, not perfect, but he had an okay playoff. I don't think that if he got signed to the Bucks, the Steelers, or the Titans, any of us would be upset. But we can all agree he's not Tyreek Hill, and that's a pretty big loss for Tyreek Hill. He's going to miss 2 or 3 games a year. Well, now you don't have Hardman there. Travis Kelce seemed like he was losing a step towards the end, whether he had an injury or not, I don't know. He just didn't seem like he was himself. Are you thinking Pringle, or you like that guy?
I like Pringle. He's tall. He's a good route runner. He can go across the middle. He's been great on deep shots this year a few times. I think that he is going to slot in again, be Hardman, and be just fine with it. I don't know.
The hard lesson that Hardman's going to learn is that when you don't have Andy Reid, and I know Shane, you just not a big fan of Bellamy, drawing up your plays though, where you can use your speed because you have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, what are you going to do? And I think that's a lot of these guys in their situation. You got to figure that out too, because you're not a guy that can plug and play in any system.
Mhm.
And whatever your agents told you, he lied to you. Just be aware of that.
But he
and
should.
you better, yeah. But that the market might not be there for you. So how much is a difference of a couple $100,000 going to make or break your life? And I think that's a decision he has to make.
Well, I mean, just like even stat wise, I was looking at it right now just quickly to make sure of this, but like Pringle had only like 75 yards less than he did all year long, and he finished with 5 touchdowns this year. Like that's where I honestly think the offense that we've saw, because they got the offensive line is set up. I don't know if McKinnon is signed. I don't think he is. I think he's a UFA.
He's not, but I think he'll be back.
He'll be back. I do think he's back too. Kelce probably is back. I don't know about the step being lost. I think it's just a long season kind of is where it wore him down.
You think he was maybe he had like an injury that they weren't talking about?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, their offense I think is just set the way it is right now. Minus Mecole Hardman, I think they're going to be fine. And then they can invest 7 draft picks on defense, and that's scary to think about. When they're not obviously going to do that realistically, but think about a team that's as powerful as an offense as they are in Kansas City, that they can take the entire draft and just aim it towards defense if they wanted to. And then really, in reality, take BPA on defense too. They really do need a corner. They're going to need somebody to replace Matthew. I still think that he comes back to it in some form of a discount, but Juan Thornhill there definitely was able to step into a role. You need backers and you need to replace your pass rushers, which is unfortunately you're not going to get them late in the draft. But they really can certainly be set here again, 1 year apart, looking at another AFC championship next year.
Well, with Patrick Mahomes under center, they're always going to be in a game. It's
But
gonna be
by the first
Aaron,
5 weeks of the season, there was a lot of question about that.
it's the same thing as Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers on the field, Green Bay's playing in a game.
Yeah, and I get all that, and what you're saying is they could invest 7 picks into the offensive or the defensive line and the defensive backfield, but think of defensive players that Andy Reid has drafted. Who is it? He drafts offensive players. He finds a way to scheme them in. I mean, they don't have
B-Doc there first or what?
I think D Ford was their only, and they traded him after 2 years, and he had a really good couple years in San Francisco.
Right, and it's not putting down defensive players that have played for Andy Reid. I'm just saying he's not known for going out and finding the hidden gems.
They had a couple.
He passed on Tyrann Mathieu in the draft.
Yeah,
that guy went in the 5th round because he smoked a little bit of weed at LSU. Like, give me a break.
Mm-hmm. But they Snead and Charvarius Ward. Those are 2 good corners. Snead had a bit of a injury plagued year this year, but those are 2 good corners that they were able to draft. And like I said, Juan Thornhill stepped into a role pretty well this year, which I thought he was already ready for.
Those are good corners if you have 3-second pass rushers.
Yeah, I know.
You saw the second that they were able to block up the pass rush, those corners got absolutely exposed. Mm-hmm. And if you can leave 2 safeties over the top, your corners are going to feel a little bit more secure. But again, the motions.
Gabriel Davis ate them up.
Right. And whatever motions were being drawn up, whether it's Buffalo or Cincinnati, they abuse that secondary. And look, Mathieu comes back. He's definitely the leader of that defense, and he is a voice. He's not the same guy. He's not the impact player that he was. Not to tell you, I mean, he's still a Pro Bowl player and potentially an All-Pro if he stays healthy. But there's big problems that are going to happen over there. And I saw something online today about how the Super Bowl window is closing in KC. I wouldn't go that far, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as, look at the Bucs from last year. They returned every single starter, and they still were second round and done. It's about the chemistry.
The Chargers team's only going to get better. The Denver team's only going to get better. The division, the Vegas took a massive jump this year.
Yeah.
The division alone is going to get harder.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs are getting older. And that's unfortunately what I think Father Time might kick in on some of those guys outside of Patrick Mahomes. And can they stay healthy?
And 25% of your salary cap is going to one guy. And would you want to go to that circus? I mean, we're not going to talk about the Chiefs this whole time, but would you want to – hi, Ashley. Would you want to go to that would you want to go to that circus with the way that Mahomes' wife and brother are? I mean, not for me. No thanks. If I'm taking a hometown discount to go play for a quarterback, I'll go to Buffalo. I will go to Cincinnati. But Kansas City's not exactly my first choice.
The defense will have a new. I was saying the defense is going to have a new leader next year, Shane, regardless if Matthew's back against that Bolton kid. I think he has earned his stripes this year, and next year I think that is his defense. He's gonna be rocking the green dot and ready to play football 18 games of the year.
Yeah, and I believe that he took a personal foul penalty and an unsportsmanlike conduct, and it's because they're not, they don't pay a lot of attention to their defense. They have to do stupid stuff like that to get attention from Andy Reid. And I think that Nick Bolton is a great player. He's a great run stuffer. Put him in pass coverage, and he's dog shit. And you put your green dot on that guy, and you're putting a risk of getting a guy that's going to get kicked out for personal foul penalties. Let's go on to the Rams and the 49ers, because we know that Liam was sweating this thing on Sunday. And Liam doesn't talk a lot in our group chat. He doesn't talk a lot of shit, but Liam was heated. He was fired right up. But look, the Rams beat the streak. This was 6 straight games that they lost to him. Jimmy G did everything that he could. And, before we dig too much into the game and kind of what happened, we're definitely going to go into a little bit of overtime here. We're definitely not cutting off at 8:15 tonight. What's next for Jimmy G? Because I will tell you, when I see the way that it ended and just like the gut feeling I have, this reminds me of Alex Smith getting traded out of Kansas City.
Jimmy G is gone. It's that simple. That game wasn't Jimmy G's fault. At the end of the game, they couldn't block that pass rush, and he was running for his life. They
Yeah.
couldn't run. They couldn't run the ball on that front four. All the things they did right in the first half, LA adjusted, and they stopped them in pretty much from the halfway through the third quarter and the rest of the way out. That wasn't Jimmy's fault, but it was the best thing that happened to Trey Lance was watching that ending, him throwing that interception to end the game.
Mhm.
I don't.
And that-
He only has
it's not a
1 year
bad
left in his
interception.
contract.
He made a
I
smart
didn't think it
play.
was. Yeah, and he has 1 year on his contract. What I heard today is he's only 1.7 million in dead money, so he's gone. Now,
So
where do I
anybody
go
that
from
trades
Jimmy
for
G?
him-
You don't have to give up nothing, realistically.
No, but I mean, anybody that trades for him is going to be looking for an extension, right? Like, you're not bringing the guy in at whatever his cap hit is, and you can't carry any of his contract over into next year or the year after. You're going to probably, like, it's going to be a team looking for a bridge, right? Like, you know, we've talked Steelers, we've talked, you know, maybe Tampa Bay if they're going to be without Brady, which I actually heard Bridgewater to Tampa, which is a different story.
I'll take Jimmy.
But yeah,
You
I
heard it
mean,
here first. I'll take Jimmy.
Denver Broncos, any of these teams that are looking for a quarterback, you know, the Giants, if you're looking for a quarterback to bridge till you can get to your next guy, would you say no to Jimmy G wearing Titans blue, Caleb?
You saw the last pick. I know you're calling it a good play, but you saw the last pick, right?
It was the only thing that he could do. I mean, it's either that or the game's over anyway. You got to
'Cause he
throw the
gets a
ball
sack.
away. Yeah.
I think you make a decision about 2 seconds earlier than he did, unfortunately.
Didn't your quarterback throw 3 interceptions last week?
Yeah, so why am I going to take a guy that just did that? So I'm saying, did you see the
Because-
last interception? I don't want to take that
He-
any more than I want to take
he's
Carson
really
Wentz.
good
to
at
get
handing
He's
interception.
the ball off.
33 and 16 in the as a record.
He's really
Like,
good
you're
at handing
gonna-
the ball off.
Ryan doesn't have Tannehill doesn't have a very bad record either, right?
Yeah, but
So-
no, but he sucks. Like, we already agreed on that. We agreed on that last week. He sucks.
The Jimmy does?
No. Don't
I-
be jumping back on your RT bandwagon.
What I'm trying to
this
say
guy
is
stinks.
no. What I'm trying to say is that I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is any better than Ryan Tannehill. And if you think that he is, then I
Wrong.
need to point you back to Ryan Tannehill and say that he's not any better. So stat wise,
Wrong.
the
He's-
wins,
oh,
the game winning.
Do not bring the
drive-
do not bring the PFF back in the group chat. It is banned until September.
I'm not talking about PFF. You talk about game winning drives, touchdowns, interceptions, passing yardage, completion percentages. Tannehill beats
Send me one more
you know,
stat in the
almost
group
every one of
chat.
them.
You'll be removed. I am the admin.
I
Give me Mitchell Trubisky over Ryan Tannehill.
Oh
Thank
my
you very
gosh!
much.
If I was to put up blind numbers with you guys and just say pick a quarterback, I'm sure that you guys would have a hard time deciphering which one was.
Well,
I
I
was
would
on
just choose
Jimmy
the other
G's
one because
hands and
anytime
face.
that you put a stat in our chat, it's for the Titans. So I would just take the opposite.
Well,
I know your moves.
How about Jimmy G's elusiveness to not allow a sack? He didn't get sacked at all against a pretty ferocious defensive line. So think of how elusive and electric of a play caller you need to be to not get sacked by the Rams.
He might not have got sacked, but he was running for his life.
I
There's
know,
a big
at this point,
difference.
I'm just it's way better if we can get after Kalen here.
He looked scared though by the fourth quarter because he didn't know what to do. That was the only thing I did notice about him. Kalen's looking for stats, not even listening.
I'm listening. Oh, I'm listening.
He has unfortunately, I think it's a Kyle Shanahan problem, not a Jimmy G problem. That's in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan can't call plays with the lead. He did this in big games. Once again, it's like you're too smart for your own good. His offensive coordinator too smart for his own good, and we saw what happened. And I'm not even trying to take a shot at Nick Newman this time, but look what happened at Atlanta. You had the game wrapped up, and you want to be the smartest guy in the room instead of just winning a football game.
Yeah. Well,
And I think that's Kyle Shanahan's flaw, not a Jimmy G flaw.
You know, and we look at the exact same thing. So McVay on that third down call, just before they kicked the field goal, what a circus of a play call that was. At this point, they could have converted that first down, bled the clock all the way down, and we wouldn't even be talking about Jimmy G's bad interception. We would be talking about how the Rams were able to finish a game. But instead, they tried to call some kind of a weird ass bubble screen that went for a 5-yard loss, and then the shaky Matt Gay has to come out and try and kick a field goal. He nailed it, which good for them. But they still put Jimmy G back on the field with a minute and a half left or a minute and 10 seconds left. And that's all because of what Chad's talking about, an offensive mind out scheming it in his head to think that throwing the ball to Sony Michel 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage is going to somehow result in a positive gain.
You have a hammer like Cam Akers, and like I'm leaving our Super Bruce out of this, but that guy drops his shoulder and only falls forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he had 2 fumbles the week before. It happens. You want to show confidence in your guy, give him the ball when the game's in the line. And you get that 1 yard and it's over. It's done. That's a simple call. Your offensive line was getting a push. Run away from Joey Bosa, and you're going to be fine.
So
or Nick Bosa, whatever, whatever one it is. But
now coming back to the Niners and not having good play call and stuff, I think there was something that happened yesterday, right in the third quarter. Well, it happened in the second quarter, but then he got hurt again in the third. Arguably the best left tackle in football, Trent Williams, had that high ankle sprain, got taken down pretty early on, and he was not the same after that. San Francisco's offense has run left many, many times, dominantly to the left side of the field, and they couldn't. Trent Williams couldn't steal an edge, and that's one of the reasons why Jimmy G was running around with his head cut off yesterday, was because Trent Williams was getting beat over and over and over again. But you don't have anybody better than him, even at 40%.
Sure, and that's fine. But Trent Williams also didn't play against the Cowboys, and they still found a way to abuse them.
I am not going to sit here and say the Cowboys defense or the Rams defense, when what they were showing yesterday push, is better than the Cowboys or worse than the Cowboys. I think it was easier for them to beat the Cowboys.
Okay,
finesse.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just saying the play calls all come in the same, and if he's not playing against the Cowboys, regardless of the skill level on the other side, so you're saying that he just can't call, he's not a good play caller against elite talent.
I think that the entire offensive line on the left side, Tomlinson wasn't enough to hold up on, to be able to pick up whatever Williams couldn't take or pick up himself. I just don't think Tomlinson is as strong of a left guard as maybe I thought he was. I think that just goes to show how strong Alex Mack is, how strong Trent Williams is. I just think that left side fell apart after that. First time he went down and he limped off the field. It was never the same after that. They were going to gimmicky plays from then on.
And you might be right. And, one thing that play calling cannot do, it can eliminate a 1-2 punch. And the way Cooper Kupp and OBJ are playing, I think that the Rams really need to find a way to bring OBJ back next year. For all the reasons that he's shown in the last couple of weeks. This is not Cleveland. This is not New York. This is LA. You do not need to pay this guy $15 million to play football in LA, because he will make $15 million off the field in any type of endorsement, shoe deal, anything that's going on. If they can find some kind of a reasonable salary for this dude and keep him around, they are going to be in much better shape.
What happened in LA is exactly what I've been saying for years, that Odell Beckham is not a number one receiver.
Right.
He is great at stretching the field. He has phenomenal hands. He can run a slant and he can run verticals. Outside of that, there's not too much that he does, but he's really good at those things. And unfortunately, a number one receiver has to do more than that. But he is the perfect complement to a guy like Cooper Kupp, who can do all those other intermediate routes, underneath routes. Cooper Kupp blocks. Cooper Kupp makes Odell get to do those things, because Cooper Kupp draws attention no matter where he goes. Because you're not going to let Odell, you're not going to double Odell anymore.
And look, the one thing, I haven't heard it talked about anywhere, but I'm sure you guys noticed. It seemed like every time Odell Beckham was getting hit, they were aiming for his head. There was headhunters out there on the San Francisco defense, and Odell was he kept his cool. I'm surprised that he kept his cool and he kept his wits about him. But did you not think that? There had to have been more than one penalty called against him based on the way that they were hitting him.
Yeah. It's unfortunate he's just such a small frame. looks maybe worse than it really is potentially. Now you
Well, I
talk
mean,
about
helmet to helmet doesn't look worse because they're on a small frame.
yeah. I mean lining up like the way that like the player was tackling. But you're right, there was some penalties should have been called. You talk about them sticking around. I just don't know salary wise how they're going to fit that in. Obviously, they've already proved many times once over that the salary cap is a myth. But I do think that there is a new GM and a new coach in the AFC that are going to want a receiver for their team who just lost a receiver that they had in the first round. And that might be the Vegas Raiders, man. Like you talk about a team that wanted to put an offer on him before he went to LA. That was one of the other teams that did want him to come there. Mind you, times are different. They don't have the same GM they had at that time. Josh McDaniels may not want to take a flyer on somebody like OBJ, but OBJ's kept his head to the ground here over in LA. That'd be a pretty fun offense to run in, I think. You know, to have Derek Carr there, who you know is going to be able to sling it. You play inside of a dome. You're playing in Vegas. No tax. Like, have some fun.
Yeah, and I mean, he could just run boat trips in the in between games to supplement his income. I mean, this guy is known to
Caesars
like a
out
boat
front
trip.
in the moat or something, right?
I don't know if Vegas is the proper town for a guy like Odell. I'm not saying that like
He
LA
might
is
have
probably
done
much
better
better.
in New York than he was in Cleveland. He might need the big city.
Well,
And I mean,
well,
I'm just gonna say a lot of guys get in trouble in Vegas, as we've seen. They've been there for 2 years, and some things have happened.
yeah. If there's any way that they can keep him in LA, they need to at least attempt to do that. And another guy that needs to be attempted to get put, and that's a guy that's going to be heading into his fourth season. Deebo Samuels needs to get paid this offseason for the 49ers to have a realistic shot at keeping him in free agency. I mean, naturally, he's a second-round pick, so, you know, there's all the restricted tenders, blah, 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 blah. But what's a realistic salary for this guy? I mean, he seems like he likes football. He's not like Le'Veon Bell, so he's not going to be the guy that says he needs to be paid like the top receiver and the top running back. But some kind of a hybrid, like that's looking at probably $15 million a year.
I was saying 20.
20. Damn.
I mean, if
You're not paying a quarterback.
yeah.
'Cause you got Lance for 4 more years, and Jimmy's gone. 20 million's probably where you're gonna go.
Ooh.
No, I
Like
mean,
just
like
front load the shit out of it.
You figure something out, yeah. Liam, can you look up the top paid receivers in the NFL? What their average salary is? But like, he's gonna get top 5 money. How does he not?
So if you're the 49ers, do you not just run to him and be like, hey, let's work on an extension now before Devontae Adams has a chance to go and sign his deal? 'Cause-
100% you do.
Yeah, because, I mean, they don't play the same way, but if you're looking at offensive production, nobody had more scrimmage yards than Deebo Samuels this year.
I think Cooper Kupp was the only one.
No, I thought that Deebo passed him.
Oh, did he? I think
Yeah,
all
I
purpose
I
Cooper
didn't
Kupp
see
had
the
more. But he
final
also
was
returned
for the year.
kicks.
But
It was close though.
it was it had to be pretty close. Man, you're
What is it, Liam?
7, yeah.
God damn.
Yeah. Galladay's making 18 million. First off,
He didn't
Deebo
even score a
Samuel
touchdown.
is laughing in everybody's face if you're like, well, I'm only going to give you 15. This loser in New York didn't even have a touchdown. I was our offense. He's getting 20 plus easily.
Now, when that happens, though, when you pay that man 20 million plus, does that mean he's still going to get all the same touches he got before? Do you do that to
100%.
Do you do that to somebody like that? Right? Like
I-
you do that with a running
think you
back,
have
but
to.
they're not paying $20
think you
million
have
for a running back. Yeah. I mean, I
So-
think you would have to as well. I mean, you've shown what you can do for the team at this point, but now we're going from maybe 115 targets a year to adding in the run game, so you're adding another 100 carries, potentially playing in the screen game, so you know targets there too. That's wild, man. That's a lot of wear and tear. But that
So,
guy's built
yeah.
like a brick shit house.
What else are you going to do
Yeah.
there?
I don't know.
Like,
That's what I'm asking. Like,
It's either you pay him and you get to keep your offense with a young quarterback who needs a guy like Deebo Samuel, or he's just going to walk anyways and he'll go do the same thing against you.
No, I agree with paying him. I just meant about like, is he going to be used the same way? You're going to add this guy.
Yes.
He's going to have as many touches as like Derrick Henry or Chris Johnson had in a year. That's crazy to think about a wide receiver. We're talking about targets and carries and everything as well. It's wild.
Yeah.
That's a lot
and-
of wear and tear. And now, like I said, he's built like a brick shithouse, but he's not 6'7". He's not Megatron
No.
here built that
No,
way.
you're right. I think that a lot of teams are going to try and find their Deebo Samuels. I mean, there's
Mhm.
not a lot of guys in the NFL that are, that have that type of ability. This guy has monstrous legs, and and he has the receiving ability to be a top 10 receiver.
But this is what's fun with the NFL, though. Like the evolution of positions. Like this is going to be, like you mentioned, I do think that this is going to be the new like toy position. What kind of receiver can we find in the street or in the draft that can do these multiple different positions for us and take up 3 in 1, like they did with Taysom Hill, right? Being able to do 3 positions in 1. That's amazing. And then maybe they'll put him on punt return too. He'll do 4 for us.
Yeah, I think you pay him a lot of money, and it's just a short-term contract. I mean, if you gave him tomorrow, you just walk in and you say 4 years, $85 million. I think that you're willing
You
to
say
sign
70% guaranteed.
Yeah, I think you're willing to sign up as a franchise, knowing that he might, even if you wore him out over the next 3, you might have to cut him out of the 3rd or the 4th year. And if you're Deebo, of course you're going to take a guaranteed whatever it was, $65 million. That's not chump change.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be the way things are going. Overall takes from Sunday, and then we'll start to wind down here. I'm pretty happy for Matt Stafford and his family. Like we don't talk a lot about that. That guy has not only been through a lot as a Detroit Lions quarterback, but everything that he had to do for his wife and how classy and cool he's been about it. That guy deserves this.
How classy and cool he went out of Detroit too.
Yeah, look, I don't.
I'm not being facetious there. I'm being real, right? Like, yeah.
No, I mean they talked about it. He said, "I think it's my time to move on." They facilitated it. They found, and I mean, a lot of people probably don't know this, but Clayton Kershaw and him are best friends. They went to high school together, so they traded him to the hometown team. Well, they traded where his hometown best friend is pitching for the Dodgers. So his best.
They found a
friend
match for him. They just didn't send him off.
Yeah, they found
and say,
exactly
"Go fuck
what
yourself."
he needed. I mean, these are 2 kids from Texas that basically run LA sports right now. That's Matt Stafford and Clayton Kershaw. Their wives are best friends. Like everything makes sense. His life is in a good spot. It just seems like the next thing for him is the Super Bowl. And I guess this is going to be a hot button topic, but is 1 Super Bowl worth a first ballot Hall of Fame for Matt Stafford?
I think the problem that's going to hurt him is his record, his wins and losses. You and I debate Hall of Fame players all the time, especially the quarterback position. We had a long talk about Ben Roethlisberger, and it wasn't until he won his second one that I told you, hands down, he's going in. I think Matt Stafford's going to get in that same kind of category that I used to put Ben in, where it's like, well, if these guys aren't in before Ben, how do you put him in? And I don't think you can use yards anymore and touchdowns as a stat to use because the game's changed so much that the stats are just glorified now. The guys in the 70s weren't throwing to protected receivers. They weren't protected. They just weren't throwing the ball 45 times a game.
Right.
So I think stats are going to take it out of it, and his win-loss record is really going to be the thing that might hold him back. And outside of guys that watch football religiously like us, do a lot of like weekend warrior fans who watch football when they're just out at a buddy's house. Do they actually know anything about Matt Stafford and like what he did? And that might keep him out. And Hall of Fame voters are assholes too. So
yeah, I mean the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's nothing worse than Hall of Fame in baseball, but that's a topic for a different show. But the Hall of Fame voters would respect what Stafford is, and I think if he, let's say he's going to play for the Rams for the next 5 years. If he wins 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years, or even just 1 Super Bowl and makes another appearance, I think that's enough to get him in. I think that this is proof that getting drafted to the Lions shouldn't hold you back from the Hall of Fame. And, he threw Calvin Johnson into the Hall of Fame. So I think that getting some hardware on his resume, even though it is a stat driven league, you're getting an extra regular season game now. He's starting to develop a decent stat line for playoffs. And if you look at him playing for the Rams for the next 4 or 5 years, like I said, you'd have to assume that win or lose this Super Bowl, he's still going to get an opportunity to play in 8 or 10 more playoff games. And I think that if you can win the bulk of those, then you're in okay shape.
Mhm.
I was going to compare him to Kurt Warner, and then I saw Kurt Warner actually had a winning record, which kind of blew my mind because he had a couple of really bad years.
Yeah.
So
Just because you brought up Calvin Johnson there, and we've got McVay with the Rams. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. It's been shared a bunch of times, but you know who the high school athlete of the year for Georgia was? Calvin Johnson and Sean McVay, and Sean McVay won it over him. There's a little fun storyline for you guys. That's crazy, eh?
I
Can't
didn't
teach
realize that
talent,
bowling.
Caleb.
I didn't realize bowling was a sport in Georgia.
Stop it.
I'm assuming he was a really good bowler. I mean, what else would he?
no,
have
he
been?
won Mr. Football.
Come on. Ugh.
Yeah, it's insane, right?
The
And then you
South-
look at
the South. Man, the South needs to grow up. That's embarrassing. That's
I
ridiculous.
didn't know how to word that without coming across really wrong. So I'm glad you said it.
No, yeah, that's incredible. All right, I got one more question, then we're gonna sign off here. Is the super team paying off based on what we're seeing over the last couple of years? And are we gonna start to see draft picks being less important and dump if you think that your team is this close? Is there gonna be there has to be a team that's gonna be willing to part from 2 or 3 first-round picks this offseason to get some of the guys that are going to be available. But are we going to see this as a trend? I mean, are we going to go towards the way that the NBA went there for a bit?
I think so. I had a talk with one of my other buddies, and the way I related it was what the Jays did in 2015. They went all in, and they lost. And then we saw the repercussions of it for the next few years, for that 4 or 5 years. And the biggest question is, as a fan base, are you okay with that? Because I know I am. Like Tampa Bay went all in. We won a Super Bowl. And now we might suck for the next 5 years all over again.
That's generous.
It's I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah.
I saw our last year's records, last 10 years. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, just win a Super Bowl every 19 years. You'll be fine.
It's also all about balance.
Yeah.
As a fan, if Tampa even would have lost, I wouldn't have been upset. I'd rather, and if I'm a Rams fan, if you go all in and lose, at least you went there. What's the point of playing? And Kalen, not taking a shot at your team, but for a long time, you guys were a 9-7, 10-6 team. Now you've grown to where you are. But if I was in that bracket of 500 or just over 500, and I could make that push to go as a fan, I'd be pumped. I'm all for it.
Well-
building through the draft is great, but so are Super Bowls and championships.
Yeah.
So, you're right. The repercussions that you guys went all in, but you went all in on signing people, and your repercussions might only be 3 to 4 years long. You trade away first and second year draft picks, and then you don't have salary cap because now you've paid these high end players. Your repercussions aren't just 3-4 years long. You are looking at a potentially decade long after that. Well, the Rams were great. They were the greatest show on turf. And then people had to get paid. And then they sucked for a long time. And I don't know if any team wants to potentially going through for 20 years sucking. I don't know. I wouldn't be down with losing draft picks. I think draft picks have been proven to be too important anymore.
I'll bet you if you told Browns or Lions fans that they could get a super team for 2 years or built to the
Yeah.
draft, I bet you they would take it. Now, I'm just gonna quick question, then we'll start. This is the final bit. One team that could do this and go on this run from each of us. So I'm gonna start before Kalen takes it because I think that Tennessee makes a lot of sense to do this next. Not only do they need a Super Bowl for the fan base, Kalen, you deserve it. We give you a lot of shit, but you deserve a Super Bowl. You don't deserve to be an inch away from the goal line for the next 20 years because that's what it's been for you since the 2000 year.
Oh, I know, and they still just shooting pictures my way whenever they can. And yes, yeah, man, I
We
think
bring it up every chance we get.
I
Yeah.
especially after this week when I talked, or the last week when I told you guys that I did tear up after the loss. I legitimately laid in bed and thought to myself, "There's a good chance that I'm never going to see the Titans win a Super Bowl in my life."
And that's a fair way to
I've
think.
seen the Celtics win. I've seen the Red Sox win. I've seen the Devils win. I would trade all of those wins combined to see the Titans get a Super Bowl, man.
Yeah,
terrible.
And look, I think that they take 2 first-round picks and maybe a third-round pick, and they call John Snyder over in Seattle and say, "Look, this is what we're willing to do. We need to bring Russell Wilson into Tennessee, and because of that, we are going to go all in, and guys are going to want to come play here. Maybe you just move on from Julio Jones because he's probably, even though he played really good in that wildcard game, he might not be the guy at 22 million. Find a way to bring in a couple of receivers. You already got Derrick Henry in place. Your offensive line doesn't have to be that good because Derrick Henry will just run through it like a fucking bowling ball. Your defensive line is pretty strong, and your secondary has never given up a catch in the NFL. So I think that Russell Wilson automatically makes it so that they win the Super Bowl. What do you guys got? Who's your team?
Chad?
I'm just kind of looking through like there's all the teams right now because like I guess between 32 teams would take me forever. 2 teams that jump out to me, but I'm just gonna stay in the same division. The Indianapolis Colts. You're right there. You have the pieces. I think that's the other team that I would go all in. I think they thought Carson Wentz could be the answer. I think it's shown it's not the answer. I don't think he played absolutely horrible, but I don't know if he's the right guy. But that defense is so good. The running game's there. Michael Pittman is going to be a star, but he's not ready yet. And I think if you can go get some pieces there and go get some veterans, you play in a dome. Outside of Tennessee, the division's trash. That's another team I'd go all in on.
Yeah, so Russell Wilson now plays for Tennessee. Aaron Rodgers now plays for the Colts. So I'm assuming that is that where you're going, Chad? Sorry, I kind of just pieced that one together myself.
I thought the other one was the Broncos. I will go with the other team I could see going all in.
Kalen?
I see no one going to the NFC. That's the way I see it. I think people are going to leave the NFC.
Just because of how weak the division.
There's somebody on here just blowing up your shit right now, Kalen.
What are they
Says that
saying?
the Titans are a fraud.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Oh.
Some dude, but I like him.
Oh man, I lost my. The NFC South. I'm thinking Carolina. Carolina has a decent defense. They're sitting in a weak division right now. I have no idea what the Saints are going to look like next year. If Tampa actually loses Tom Brady, they're going to lose. Like you mentioned, Leonard Fournette and Chris Godwin. So you're a pretty weak team over there. No idea who's going to be a quarterback for you guys. Hopefully it's not Blaine Gabbert. You know how much I love that guy. So yeah, I think that's a team that could certainly make the leap through their division to get a few wins and stack them on top of that defense, which is really not that bad a defense. Their offense just needs a fix. They've already sunk a lot of draft picks, unfortunately, into quarterback. But
Teddy Bridge going to the Bucks. All right, boys. We went deep into overtime. It's because we had some technical issues. We're going to sign off here. We are going to go ahead.
Speaking of the draft, we talked about Kerry Collins earlier because I had to look this up. He was a 5th overall pick.
That makes me want to puke.
Right?
I mean,
Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, he did make a Super Bowl with the Giants, but yeah, that guy sucked. All right, Thursday's show. We are going to make some announcements on Thursday, so we're going to call it Announcement Thursday. Right now, make sure that if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, you go check that out. If you haven't checked out the Twitch channel, Kalen's been blowing it up the last couple of days. I saw him throwing hot dots on there the other day, so make sure you check that out. Facebook and Instagram, we're always doing weird stuff on there. Chad looks like he's in a feisty mood, so you might see some stuff on there tomorrow morning. And we'll just sign off there. Boys, cheers. Enjoy your Miller
Cheers.
Lights or Bangerangs or whatever you're drinking. And